Something massive happened today with Tesla stock. We're going to get into it, and it's very exciting. As well as that, we have a lot of big news to go over, including a huge batch of Highlands that are about to be shipped out of the Shanghai port. We also are reaching a tipping point of EV mass adoption. We're getting to a point where the sales for EVs should continue to grow exponentially. And on top of that, we have all of the data that came out today in the markets and much more. Hit the like button if you are a current investor in Tesla stock or looking to become one. Let us know. Let your voice be heard by hitting the like button, as well as subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with all of these videos every time a new video is put out, so you can have the most up-to-date and relevant information. Some of the big news coming out today is this article from Reuters. It says Tesla reinvents car making with quiet breakthrough. It says Tesla has combined a series of innovations to make a technological breakthrough that could transform the way it makes electric vehicles and help Elon Musk achieve his aim of halving production cost, 5 people familiar with the move said. The company pioneered the use of huge presses with 6,000 to 9,000 tons of clamping pressure to mold the front and rear structures of its Model Y in a Giga casting process that slashed production cost and left rivals scrambling to catch up. Tesla is closing in on an innovation that would allow it to die cast nearly all of the complex underbody of an EV in one piece, rather than about 400 parts in a conventional car. The 5 people said a single large frame combining the front and rear sections with the middle underbody where the battery is housed could be used in Tesla's small EV, which aims to be launched with a price tag of $25,000 by the middle of the decade, so somewhere around 2025. Joe Tetmeyer shared this photo and said this could be a small facility for some of these Giga castings, and he really can't explain exactly what this is for, so that's his best logical answer, which does make some sense given you can see the size. It's not that large. Would be perfect for just simple Giga casting. Joe Tetmeyer says there's currently one structure at Giga, Texas that he hasn't been able to fully explain, and this structure might be the Giga casting facility. That would make sense given the smaller relative size to, obviously, Giga, Texas. To do the Giga castings here would make quite a lot of sense. Tesla's Autobidder has already grown its global portfolio to over 7 gigawatt hours of battery storage under direct dispatch next year, and our real-time algorithms have already returned over $330 million in trading profit to early storage investors. This is what the actual interface looks like. According to Bloomberg, U.S. electric vehicle sales are reaching a breakthrough pace. It took a decade to sell the first million EVs in the US, but just a year to reach the third million. EVs exceeded 7% market share of new cars for the first half of the year, speeding past a critical tipping point for mass adoption. In the last few months, all-time sales topped 3 million. California is responsible for 39% of EVs ever sold in the US, and Tesla accounts for 61% of EVs that have ever been sold in the US, down slightly from the high you've seen of 64% back in 2022. This is actually Q1, Q2 of 2022. Elon Musk is set to meet Israel's Benjamin in Silicon Valley. I'm not going to attempt to butcher the last name. It goes on to say that, quote, their talks would focus on artificial intelligence technology. Benjamin was already scheduled to visit California next week before traveling to New York for the UN General Assembly. The Israeli official confirmed the meeting with Musk, first reported by the Washington Post, but offered no further details. It does go on to say that Benjamin may try to bolster relations with executives in the high-tech sector, a key driver of Israel's economy. Sawyer Merritt writes, if the UAW doesn't reach an agreement with GM, Ford, and Stellantis by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, 145,000 workers will strike against the Detroit Big Three for the first time ever. GM, Ford, and Stellantis will collectively lose an estimated $1.85 billion every week that passes without reaching a deal. If there is a strike, Sawyer Merritt says, he does not expect it to be long. These would be some very big losses, and these companies just cannot afford these losses. But they also can't afford 40% pay raises, and there seems to be no give with the union. Holmar's catalog says that they will actually announce the initial strike targets about 2 hours before that. The first round of strikes are going to be on strategic plants. A lot of people are speculating transmission plants or that make the key components for vehicles. So even your other factories that are able to produce vehicles, well, they can only produce until, well, they run out of transmissions or whatever other part of a factory they decide to strike on. For any of you guys that are looking at trading GM or Ford, upon any strike, you guys got to remember, it's unlike Tesla. They don't sell direct to consumer. They sell to dealerships. So I live in Michigan. I've talked to a lot of different dealership owners as of the last couple of weeks, and they've all told me that they've just stocked up on more vehicles, because if the strike does last a long time, well, they don't want to run out of vehicles. So what could actually end up happening is next quarter could be pretty bad for GM and Ford, especially if a lot of these vehicles on the lots have not sold. Go buy a Ford or GM dealership. The dealerships are packed, and plus a lot of them have other warehouses or storage kind of spaces for even more vehicles. So you guys got to remember that. This will take some time to actually feed in to a GM or Ford's earnings if this strike does indeed happen. This is ultimately a positive for Tesla. Now take a look at this parking lot full of Teslas. There's probably 800 to 1,000 plus Teslas here in this parking lot waiting to be exported via the Shanghai port. These are all Model 3 Highlands. Take a look at some of these up close pictures that we are getting. Just the car is stunning. I mean, and there is a lot of them. So it looks like the production ramp is what I would call ramped. Do you remember what we reported yesterday, that the EU has granted Tesla 149 million euros in funding for superchargers? Well, they are going to install or upgrade over 7,000 superchargers to the new V4 supercharger. Tesla was actually selected for 2 supercharger projects, one under Tesla Italy and one for Tesla Poland, totaling 148 million euros to 149, almost 150 million euros. Tesla Cybertruck scratch-proof tungsten carbide coating option pondered by Musk, and this would just really make the Cybertruck basically unscratchable to a greater extent. You would have to kind of try to scratch it. You'd have to like try to key the car to scratch it. And for a little bit of context here, my personal mom has a 2022 Chevy Equinox, and she gets her nails done, and there's literally scratches all over her car right by the kind of handle. So anything that's more scratch resilient than that wouldn't let your nails scratch the paint, is gonna be a positive. It's gonna be a good thing, and I have high hopes for the Cybertruck. I think we should now talk about what happened today with Tesla stock. and the actual technicals that is very exciting and very much signaling a larger potential up move. And I hope you know what I'm about to say, but if you don't, let me refresh all of your memories. I have had this downtrending line of resistance on the chart for literally almost 2 years now, since November of 2021. And guess what? You broke above that before earnings, and once you break above that, you tend to get a pretty large rally above, and then you came right back down after earnings. What happened today? At the time of recording this video, Tesla stock is up 1.56%, and now above this longer term downtrending line. It has been over 2 years since Tesla has been above this line, not heading into earnings. So usually you're kind of at this line, or if you are above this line, you're coming off of a big rally, you're after earnings, there's some kind of blow off top event that has happened that you have gotten to this line and you've got rejected here. This time around, it's been a healthy kind of move, I would say. And now you're above it. So what this means is your algorithms should start to buy Tesla stock above this line as long as we close above here today. And this could fuel an even larger rally. This could really buck the trend and start to send Tesla back into the $300 range. And I personally think the 315 looks pretty good for another resistance level. So I think that's the next kind of gap you have to fill to the upside, to about 315 on the charts. Now, if you look at some of the other technical factors as well, like the RSI being at 62.49, it is a little bit elevated, but I mean, it's just more healthy than not. So you could see a big move in the RSI before that would be a cause for concern. The MACD is especially positive because look at these kind of humps, right? Boom, boom, boom. You were way higher before on the MACD. Even just recently, right before earnings, you were about 22 on the MACD. You typically, as like a median level on the MACD on any rally, once you go from negative to positive, you tend to move to about 17 on the MACD. Today, you are at almost 4 on the MACD. So once you get this break, you tend to get to about 17 on the MACD. Sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, around 17. So that would mean you have some potentially big upside from here as far as what the MACD is telling us. Now, obviously, there are other things to consider, like if the markets go through a seasonal period of weakness, on which you typically do after quad witching, which is this Friday. Well, that could obviously have an effect on Tesla, or if there's any other news or data that comes out that moves the markets downwards, I wouldn't expect Tesla to buck that trend without any news. So if nothing happens with Tesla that moves the stock higher, well, you're going to follow the markets. Good news is we just got a lot of economic data out of the way, and it did not cause a massive sell-off today. Today you got the retail sales number that came in at 0.6%. You were expecting 0.2%. So on one hand, that is red hot, and it shows the economy is doing quite well according to these initial numbers. That might be kind of bad for the Fed. Not exactly what the Fed wants to see. And when you couple that with PPI month over month, that came in at 0.7%. Your estimate was 0.4%. So way hotter than expectations. And something interesting happened today. The CPI report, the core, well, you're now net negative with PPI. So PPI being at 0.7% is actually having a net negative effect on company margins, especially if PPI continues to be this high. that could be a problem for companies coming pretty soon. Wall Street is not panicking on this today. Wall Street is looking past this. This could be a positive for Tesla stock and could really allow Tesla to make that move higher. But again, after quad witching, that's where stocks typically sell off in the month of September. This week is historically pretty bullish in September. It's next week and the following week that are the problem. Tonight, we are going to get industrial production and retail sales year over year, as well as the unemployment rate coming out of China at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so 7 p.m. Pacific Time if you guys are on the West Coast, and this will certainly be something that will affect our markets overnight tonight, especially if we get some really bad data or really good data. It could have a big effect on the futures and the beginning of trading tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, you're going to get the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey. This does tend to coincide with the markets, so I'm expecting a good number. You are expecting a little bit of a decline from last month, but the thing you really want to watch is consumer expectations, as well as the 5-year and the 1-year inflation expectations. If 5-year inflation expectations go higher from here, that's a problem. 1-year inflation expectations going higher, that would also be quite the problem. You are also seeing some very bullish positioning today from hedge funds and institutions. Specifically, 615 orders totaling $134.18 million with a positive order value of 81%. Anything over like 65% is pretty dang bullish. 75% or higher is really bullish. Over 80%, that's extremely bullish. So there's a lot of people that are pretty bullish on Tesla stock today. And what you're really seeing is a lot of these short-term option bets from this week until next week, targeting in between the 270 and the 285 calls. There is a lot of option activity at the 290s as well, but a lot of option buyers betting that Tesla stock could rally roughly 3.5% to 5% within the course of the next couple of trading days. The dollar amount that is sold short in Tesla stock continues to grow as Tesla stock continues higher. You're now at 22.72 billion sold short in Tesla, and this number is going to breach over 23 billion again after today's almost 1.5% rally. Something I do want to point out that could be a risk factor for our markets is the ARM IPO that did come out today. As you can see, we have traded 84 million shares. That is almost the entire float today. So this is great that the stock is up almost 18%, but larger weighted stocks in the markets, your big tech stocks, specifically Nvidia, are seeing some capital draining out of those stocks today, basically coinciding right as the ARM IPO went live. So Nvidia is down about 0.3% today. If ARM continues to do well, it could suck some money out of Nvidia, which is obviously a component of the S&P, of the NASDAQ 100, and that could help send the broader indexes down. Obviously, no guarantee here, but that's just what we have seen so far today. That is a potential risk factor that you need to know. Adobe also reports earnings today and after hours. Adobe is up about 65% year to date. So there's a lot of good things already baked into Adobe stock. If Adobe has bad earnings or just okay earnings, the stock could fall quite a bit. That could put a damper on the AI theme of this market. That is another smaller potential risk factor. Overall, I've said it before and I will say it again. You want to be fully invested in Tesla stock, in my opinion, heading into 2024 and or when we get the launch of the Cybertruck. I expect that to be a very bullish event. Tesla entering into a new category of the automotive space that they have not been in before is going to drive margins hopefully higher. It's going to drive deliveries higher. That's something that Wall Street is really not expecting. And just the cherry on top I want to throw in here, FSD, for a lot of these reservation holders of the Cybertruck that got in at first probably have full self-driving as well. So a lot of that revenue probably going to be able to be recognized pretty soon or pretty quick after initial deliveries start. So that should also help out Tesla's earnings more, in my opinion, than Wall Street expects. And finally, like I said, tomorrow is quad witching. That means you have trillions of dollars of derivatives expiring. And think about it like this. That money, those trillions of dollars in derivatives today are basically locked up, right? Tomorrow, people start to sell those. They start to exercise those derivatives. They start to move money around. Depending on if you see a lot of hedges tomorrow or you see a lot of kind of that buy the dip mentality come through, well, that could make for a very volatile day coming tomorrow, especially the last 2 hours and the last really hour of trading. You will see heightened volatility. You will see heightened volume. So expect that heading into tomorrow. But quad witching days in and of themselves are not any more bullish or bearish historically than any other day in the markets. But like I said, September seasonally up until quad witching tends to actually be a pretty bullish period for the markets. But after quad witching, so after this Friday, is where you tend to see the market sell off in September. That's why you've heard this seasonality argument that September tends to be really bearish. Well, that's true, but not the first half of September. It's actually the second half of September that tends to be bearish. So that is all of your Tesla stock analysis as well as your broader market analysis you need to know for this Thursday. Hit the like button if you made it to the end of this video, as well as subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with future videos that come out. One of them will be later on tonight, and I highly recommend you guys just be waiting for that video. That one is going to be wild. So I hope you guys are there. If you guys want to come trade with us live in real time, link down below in the description of this video as well. Come join the trading community. That is it. My name is Michael Tyler. Thank you for joining me today. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.